Well, some in the GOP are cheering the release of the now well-known Nunes memo, while others are concerned it could have a political cost. Here to discuss, Gina Loudon, Trump supporter and host of America Trends with Dr. Gina, and Alice Stewart, CNN political commentator and Republican strategist. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Victor.
So, Alice, let me start with you and that question. Are there political challenges, political costs to the release of this memo? It was billed as bigger than Watergate. It was billed as shocking. Did the Nunes memo deliver to the president's base, to Republicans?
To the base, sure. I mean, they wanted to hear what was in the memo. They wanted to hear that there were abuses by the FBI and the Department of Justice, and they wanted to show that this FISA memo was a direct result of the dossier, which was spearheaded by the Democrats and the Hillary Clinton campaign. So they heard exactly what they wanted to hear. However, there were some that may feel that it oversold. It was oversold and didn't deliver on that. But the critics of this, specifically John McCain and Lindsey Graham, their problems, and I agree with it. We need to not look at this investigation through as John McCain calls it, a warped partisan lens. And Lindsey Graham says we need to look at this investigation through a special counsel outside and absent of politics. And in my view, this report, while it does point out some significant flaws that were used in part of this investigation, I don't think we need to paint the entire intelligence community with a bad brush, and it doesn't need to be piecemeal. Yeah. If the Republicans put out their side, I think the Democrats should have the opportunity to put out their findings at the same time.
How about that? Why aren't we hearing from, we should have seen the two reports at the same time, right, Gina? I mean, wouldn't you have liked to have seen the Democrats' memo released at the same time, declassified at the same time as the Republican memo?
Yes, but I find it really particularly interesting that I don't hear any Republicans, maybe you know of some, I haven't heard from any corner of any conservative groups or anything that are saying that any memos shouldn't be released. I think the general American public likes transparency, and I think that this president has made it very clear that he likes transparency as well.
Well, there would be some who challenge the view of the president liking transparency after the request to release the visitor logs at both the White House and at Mar-a-Lago and his tax returns. But as it relates to the transparency and not releasing memos, then why not wait for the scrubbing, as it is, to protect sources and methods of the Democratic memo and release them together?
Well, I do think that both memos should and probably will be released. I think that the American people should continue to demand transparency. I'm much more concerned about that than I am about the tarnishing of agencies that we've already seen great corruption in. Not that there aren't lots and mostly good people in these agencies, but we need to make sure, and they need to be accountable. And we do know that there has been corruption, and we do know that the collusion that did happen, that was discussed exactly as it came out in the memo. And so I think, was it oversold? I don't think so. Not at all.
Listen, corruption and collusion are two words that I think that most people would have questions about. But let me move on, because I invited you here to talk about something else, but we had to talk about the news of the day. I just wanted to put a pin in those two words. Specifically, this week we heard that Trey Gowdy, chairman of House Oversight, also the House Appropriations chair, Rodney Frelinghuysen, both Republicans, now say that they're going to be leaving at the end of their terms, not running for re-election. 38 Republicans in total will not be running for re-election, 22 for reasons other than scandal and running for other office. This is after the tax cut bill, Alice. This is after the legislative accomplishments that the president touted. Why are we seeing this continued exodus as if, as the president says, that 2017 was so good for Republicans?
Sure, and everyone has their varying reasons for doing so. Of course, Trey Gowdy is an excellent leader in the legal community. He wants to get back into doing more legal work, and that suits him. Everyone has different reasons. Some want to spend more time with their family, but I think the good news is the bad thing is we have to say how many are leaving for personal scandals and others leaving for personal reasons. But the good news is many of these are in safe districts, Republican safe districts. So putting up a Republican in those areas shouldn't be a challenge, and we'll retain win many of those seats. And another positive thing on this victory, too, is that the RNC, the Republican Party, has done a tremendous job this year raising money, almost $36 million compared to the Democrats' $6 million. In an off presidential year election, that money will go a long way to hiring staff and putting boots on the ground in these districts. But I think I don't see this as a bad thing for Republicans.
They certainly have raised a lot of money, and the Monmouth poll out this week shows that President Trump's approval rating is up 10 points in the last month. Gina, finally to you before we wrap this up. The White House said that there was going to be an infrastructure plan introduced in January. The president has said that he wants to revisit repeal and replace, although that's unlikely before the midterms. We've heard from Paul Ryan. He wants to get to entitlement reform. There's a lot to do in Washington, DACA and Iran. But to what degree does this memo controversy kind of maybe feed that exodus, that legislators aren't really getting to do the jobs that they were sent to Congress to do?
You know, there's only a memo controversy insofar as we sort of make it a controversy and give it wings and ask questions that maybe don't need to be asked until all the memos are released. I think if we can just be patient and demand the transparency that the American people are demanding, I don't find it as that much of a distraction at all. The economy is flourishing. You know, more than 2 million jobs created just since this president took office. Every economic indicator looks great, even with the slight dip this week. Still, the economic indicators are all doing super well. Unemployment at record lows. The list goes on. I think we'll continue to see more of that out of this administration. I think this president is very determined to turn around and revolutionize, really, the economy of the United States.
Gina Loudon Alice Stewart, thank you so much.